Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-hosts, Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What is happening, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain. There's Kenny Simpson, and we are joined today by Pocola's own Coach Jason Parker. Coach, how's things today?
Going good. How are y'all?
I'm doing great. It has been a very fun offseason. Kenny, it's been a while since we jumped on, honestly. We got caught up with, I know you're doing a bunch of clinics, and I'm up there trying to have my first offseason go well. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, spring break for us too. We try to really, that's kind of, I guess, our family. We just made it a thing where spring break we go try to do something. Last couple of years, the kids they did really like Universal. I like Florida, so that's kind of what we've done. And as they've gotten older, if they're willing to hang out with Dad, then I'll pay for probably whatever because I'm not going to get a lot more chances to do that. When they were little, Universal and Disney wasn't really fun. It was fun for them, probably be in a chore for you as a parent. But as they've gotten older, then it becomes a little more fun. So we did Florida and had a lot of fun. I got to do a clinic in Tampa, which is really, really cool on the front end of that. And now we got clinics coming up everywhere. So I think I've got two more, one in Milwaukee. We're looking at close to 200 coaches. So that one's pretty much full. And then we got one in Minneapolis the weekend after in April. And that one's got a little bit more room, to go. And the last two I'm doing, and then kind of get to stop with the travel for just a little bit. We are going to do a big Gun T Summit. So that's coming out in April. I'm going to go through. I had a lot of coaches reach out and ask me, Coach, I need to know exactly like day one, what do we put in? Day two, what do we put in? How are you doing this? So we're going to do a whole summit on like actually if I was walking into a school and this was day one, here's what we do. And it's been really good for me to do that because we got spring football coming up, and that's literally what I'm doing.
That's what I've been sitting down, kind of going through the spring menu. What are we putting in? What are we introducing to the kids and the coaches? And it's been a lot of fun. I know that Joe and I got our clinic in Boston. Of course, we had a great time there. I don't remember. Have we recorded since then? I don't remember if we have.
It's been a while. While.
We're looking to host another one this year if we can make one work. So should be fun traveling and then this week you're going over to an Oklahoma school. I don't know. Can we put their name out, or is that like I don't know. Anyway, we were going to an Oklahoma school, so that'll be a lot of fun. Off season's off to a rolling start here. Coach Parker, man.
Y'all do spring. Coach Parker, y'all do spring. Daniel, y'all get to do like a spring football deal?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Do y'all play against each other or like against other teams?
So we get both spring ball and team camps. So we get 10 days of spring ball if you want them. If you use spring ball, you get one team camp. So we'll go and play against 3 or 4 other teams, however guys are setting it up this year. If you choose not to do spring ball, you get 2 team camps. I don't know how you would not use spring ball and just and go to battle. That would be crazy. Doing it twice even. So I think most guys choose to have spring ball. We used to set out spring ball because you didn't have your freshmen. So your 8th graders who hadn't completed, their 8th grade year yet couldn't come, but they changed the rule a couple of years ago. So you get all rising freshmen through seniors.
Okay.
All right. Well, go ahead. Coach Parker, you look like you're about to say something there.
Oh, just the same, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Kenny, real quick, man, give us the quote of the week, and then we will we'll kind of push on here.
Yeah. So quote of the week is coming from Team Themes Volume number 6. So if you haven't got Team Themes 1 through 5, they're all over at fbcoachsimpson.com. This one's coming out of the newest one, which should drop sometime in July. I do have a fictional book I want to start pumping here too, so I'll just do it here while we're doing the quote here, but called Iron Valley. So it's a fictional book based off of reality. I only know how to write about real stuff, so based off of our journey at Southside, but it is fictional. I mean, there's a lot of like the coach is good looking in that one, so it's obviously not super true, but some of the parts are accurate of what my story was. But it's a fictional book, kind of a double meaning. So one is supposed to just be a good book you can read and enjoy. Second part of it, at the end of it, has got discussion questions you can ask with your team, with your coaches about things that you pulled from the book. So I can't just do a normal fictional book. I'm not that great an author. So I'm going to do something from what I know that has something to pull. I'm really, really excited about it, though. It's called Iron Valley. Be looking for it. It'll drop sometime, probably mid-May. And I'm going to be doing a couple of giveaways, like giving the first chapter away, giving the discussion questions away. But a lot of that reason I'm talking about it is it pulls some from the team themes. So that was a big thing that we did that really had a huge impact on our team, which is I write about a little bit in that fictional book, but of course we have the real books. So quote for today, the word of the week for this week in the book is intensity. So the quote is actually an anonymous source that says, intensity without discipline is chaos. Discipline without intensity is weakness. And the edge is found in the balance between the two. A lot of people can be intense for short moments. A lot of people can't be intense and maintain it. And that's kind of the goal as a coach, the goal as a player, the goal as an athlete, is to be able to not just be crazily intense for 10 minutes. We want to be able to have that intensity, that fire, and that passion burning within us that we can maintain, not throughout 1 year or 2 years, but through our career.
I like it. It does. I mean, you do have to channel that energy somewhere, right? We talk to the kids a lot about that. And, it's great to come out and be a big energy coach, right? What do they say? If you ain't, it don't matter. I can't remember. Anyway, you don't bring the energy, you're kind of useless. But if you bring it and it's just chaotic, like that's just as useless to me. So that's a good one, man. Well, let's real quick run through our sponsors, and then we'll kind of push on to the questions. Don't forget, you guys need to reach out. Mark Bridges at A Sports. I'm out of practice. This is kind of sorry guys, it's a little choppy today. It's been a while since we've done this. Reach out to Mark Bridges, mark.bridges@asports.com if you'd like to know about the video boards. It is kind of what we call the cheat code to fundraising. You get one of these video boards put in, you start down the ad revenue path, and next thing you know, you're Kenny Simpson and you're, plus 700,000 or whatever in ad revenue. So go out, talk to A Sports, talk to Mark or whoever your regional rep is, get them in, show them your vision, and let them kind of help you build your dream. That's mark.bridges@asports.com. Don't forget about Winning Edge Performance Analytics. I've talked with Doug a lot this year about what he's doing next and what kind of the next piece of his WEPA is. And basically, we're going into I'm going to put my opponent's stuff in and kind of get a report for them just as good as the one that I was using for myself on Friday night. So where are they good at? What are they efficient with? Where are their explosive plays? A lot of stuff Huddle does for you, but in a different format and something you can kind of carry with you on your phone a little easier. Huddle makes it great PDFs that have way too much stuff on them sometimes. So WEPA's kind of taking the next step there. And last but not least is Blended Threads LLC. You can email Morgan at blendedthreadsllc.com, I believe is her email. And make sure if you do call and ask about any of the embroidery or screen printing or any of that stuff, make sure you let them know you heard about them from the podcast. I know she got one guy had emailed her and she was like, this must be a joke. I must be like, this is a hack or something, because she had no idea why a guy with New Jersey was emailing a little shop in Oklahoma. So let her know who you are and where you heard about her. But by all means, use them. They have excellent shipping. They get stuff out quickly. The product has been great. We've ordered some stuff from them just for our company, for my consulting stuff. And all those things have been really, really great. So reach out to Morgan at blendedthreadsllc.com. All right, boys, let's get into it here. Part one, we're talking about how do you build an offensive identity and kind of how do you decide what your team does best. So I'm going to start here. Kenny, we're going to let you start the show just because it's been a while. So part one, kind of how are you identifying your strengths? How are you picking that offensive stuff? What are your base principles, et cetera?
Yeah, for me, everybody kind of knows me as a gun T guy, and that's what we run. But that's not. We don't run it just so we think it's good. Like, we run it for a purpose, and so for us, we're always looking at, or I'm always looking at personnel every year, and we run the same system. It's not like we're going to change and start running under center or whatever. We're going to run the same thing, but it's going to look different every single year. And so what we're trying to do is look at, what do we have talent and skill wise relative to who we play. I'm kind of blessed to get to travel and work with schools that have 4,000 kids in their high school, or work with a school that has 300 kids in their high school. And some of them have 6 D1 kids on their roster, and some of them have 6, community college kids on their roster. Everybody's different. So it's all relative. So you have to really look at not just what is our talent level relative to who we're going to go play. We got to be realistic. Like, are we going to be severely outmatched in certain areas? Are we going to have an advantage in certain areas? Are we going to be relatively equal? And you have to kind of look at each year that can change. Each year, this year, I think for our kids, we're bringing back 3 starting offensive linemen. We're bringing back our starting tight end. We're bringing back our starting quarterback. So you start with that and go, okay, so we ought to be we ought to run the ball pretty well. Our quarterback's a great athlete, and we're bringing back a really good offensive line. Well, that's probably going to be where we start with building our strengths. This is probably our strengths of what we need to lean behind. And then not just are they good, but what do they do well? Like, what's the quarterback do well? Well, I'm lucky to have a dual threat who can do both. Some years, maybe it's a pocket passer who can really sling it. Some years it's a great RPO kid. Some years it's a great runner. And so not only are they good, but what are they good at? And then you got to look at the other side. Okay, who's a new starter who's maybe not even ready, but we got to put him out there. What skills does he have? What does he not have compared to who we're going to play? And then, so you start looking at, okay, that's how we're going to identify what they've got. So you look at weaknesses and what are their deficiencies. You can't just say this kid's a bad player or a good player. Like, overall, maybe he falls in one of those categories, but specifically, where is he weak? All right, maybe we're on the offensive line where we're really big this year, but we're not really athletic. Or the opposite. We're athletic, but we're small. Or we're going to be pretty good at angle blocking, but we're not going to be really good at double team, or whatever that might look like with your team. Or receiver wise, we got kids that are going to run great routes, but we're not really big, or we're not really athletic, or the opposite. We're really raw, really good athletes, but they're very raw out there. So look at their weaknesses and what deficiencies do they have. And then you look at the opposite. Every kid's got strengths, or you wouldn't put them on the field. Like, they got to have some kind of strength, or you wouldn't play them. So you might look at, okay, we're not really fast, but our kids are very intelligent. Like, they're above average intelligence of understanding the game, how to maximize their ability. Or maybe it's the other. Maybe we're not super intelligent because we're young and we're just learning, but my goodness, we're athletic. So you got to kind of look at, okay, where's our strengths? Where are our weaknesses? Again, and that's all relative to who you're going to play. So I usually will compare it depending on where our program is. So early on, we weren't very good. We were just trying to win a game. We were just comparing it to the teams I hope I can maybe beat to win some games. That's who I'm comparing my kids to. Well, now we've evolved to the place where we hope our kids will have a chance to compete at the state level. So you start looking, okay, who are the best teams in the state that if we were going to try to win a state championship, these are who we have to beat. Now let's compare our talent to them and look at what it might look like. So I'll give you like a real example. I could probably run the spread in the league that I'm in and have a good chance to possibly win the conference or at least compete up at the top. But once I got into the open playoff bracket and went down to South Arkansas, spread's not going to look so good. It's not going to look real good when they can lock me up and they got 4 or 5 kids covering my not 4 or 5 kids. So you got to kind of look at, okay, what are we going to run that's going to give us a chance to compete at the level we want to attain? Not the level, where, if you're a brand new program, you don't have to compare yourself to a state championship. You just need to try to win a couple games. Or maybe your goal is just to get in the playoffs. Who do you have to do? Who do you have to beat to get in the playoffs? Start there. And then as you grow, you start to go, okay, now let's compare it relatively to the teams we're trying to compete with. At that point, I think you start to come up with your scheme. Like, I don't think you do scheme first and then this. You start here. And then hopefully, I know we're going to talk about the next couple questions, your scheme can adapt and adjust to what you got.
Yeah, 100%. Jason, kind of the same question to you here. Kind of how are you identifying your personal strengths and your core offensive principles for the year?
Kind of like what Kenny just said. Yesterday morning, I was up looking through our district and how many players each team had coming back for next year and what we've got coming back, what we've lost, what teams have picked up kids in the transfer portal. I mean, that's all over Twitter, so you can see that and see what we've got to deal with. My first year like coaching as a head coach, I ended up taking over the OC job. I had an assistant with me, and we ran unbalanced single wing, and honestly, it was some of the direct snap stuff and different things that we did. It was just really simple, and honestly, I didn't have a big idea or a great idea what I was doing at the time when I started, but we worked from there. It was we really built an identity of kids just wanting to play tough and get after it, and that was a hurdle that we were trying to get past. We didn't have the skill and speed at different places, and I mean, honestly, I didn't have the knowledge that I needed at the time to do things spread wise. But we end up after 3 years, winning 3 games in 3 years, and then going to the playoffs the following year, and we've been every year since for 5 years. We stuck with the single wing and got a lot better at that. Started throwing out of it as well because it allowed us to, and that's something that helped me out a lot, was just when you run that type of offense and misdirection, just straight up power and just student body left and right, and some formation shifts. We had a kid that we did the direct snap to that, could throw a ball 60 yards, and we had some kids that can run. So we would, put out another kid out to the other side of the receiver on the strong side, an unbalanced single wing. And so when we had that, I know it's real simple, but it's like, hey, that guy's over there, he's faster than him, take off running, let's throw it to you. And, people would go from just having a corner on them to, hey, well, we're going to have a safety over the top too. All right, we've got more numbers than you in the box. So, with the kids that we had, we were able to do that. And then we did a little more spread and more single wing the next year, just learning. And then the following year, I really went over to Greenwood. I went up to Bixby and talked to Coach Montgomery up there, and Coach Schneider, the OC, was up there listening to some stuff they had to say. And then Coach Young at Greenwood, Arkansas, talked to them about what they did with their screen game. And because we had a lot of athletes, especially great athletes, especially at the 1A level that we've had. And so just looking at what your personnel is, what can they do? And really, everything starts at the offensive line. Can you really run the ball and do the things that you need to do? If not, that's why I really like using the screen game. To me, it's just an extension of the run game. You're just getting the ball out there, block somebody up, and get upfield. So for me, it's just looking at the kids that I have, and just like Kenny's saying, we went to the semifinals last year, so we're definitely looking. We've got some great kids coming back, and we feel like we got a chance to make a run. But number one, we want to go win a district title. We haven't got that yet, but the team that we've come up short to has won the state title the past 2 years. But they moved up 2 classifications this year, and so that's what we're looking at. And we've got the team that went to the state championship game the past 2 years in the classification ahead of us coming into our district. So we've actually played them non-district the past couple of years, and so that's yesterday morning. I just got up and went to town looking at who all they got and calling some buddies up. Hey, y'all got some kids coming in this year and different things like that. And so, trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, the mass chaos that is the redistricting in Oklahoma has been pretty wild this year, with all the rule changes, and I still don't know what the right answer is. I guess right now it's the answer we have, right? Like we'll move forward with what we have and just beat who's on the schedule. But when I look at kind of starting with core offensive principles, I'm still a big fan of coaching what you know, right? And going out and doing some research in the off season and learning. Absolutely, you have to do that. But Coach Parker, you hit on a minute ago, like you didn't know the spread game, so you had to stick with what you knew, right? And I think that's what everybody has to do. You're not going to have the answers to all the problems that defense are going to give you on offense if you go out and run somebody else's stuff and you don't do some time studying. In fact, I spent a week or two ago about an hour or two on the phone with some coaches that were trying to run the gun T, and how do I problem solve for Buck? And I was like, I don't know. I'd run GT counter. You know what I mean? Like, why? You're not asking the right guy. I talk to Kenny all the time. He is the guy. He's the Buck guy. I'm going to teach you why GT counter and power would be better here. So you got to go with what you know. And if you can coach it and your guys can coach it, then you're going to be more successful than trying to pick up some scheme and making it your core offense. And then we've already, you two both hit on doing what your team can allow, what your kids allow. It's great to be a GT counter, GH counter guy, but if you don't have offensive linemen that can pull, or you don't have a tight end to speak of, you may be looking for a little bit different scheme, and maybe you want to tie your gap scheme principles into it. That's fine. But if you don't have kids that can pull and kick, pull and swab, you might be in some trouble. So, it's just how do you get back to what you believe in based on the kid you have? When it comes to personnel strengths, once again, you've already said that too. We're getting a little bit of feedback here. Sorry, guys. We're there's an evaluation period right now, which is really hard with our current set of rules. Like, you can't say the word football outside of football period in 7th hour high school, right? Like, you've got to don't utter a breath, but you get 45 to 50 minutes a day to kind of figure out what those kids are good at, and then get prepped for spring ball. And some people, I don't know how you do it if you don't have spring ball. You can't even be in football until August. That's pretty tough to know what you got truly in your program, what's walking the halls. So just having a good eye. I'm with the route of hiring a guy that's that he's good at that stuff, right? He's an evaluator for some teams a league or two above mine, and he works in a realm that I am completely for. It's Greek to me, but he has the ability to look at someone, evaluate what their skill sets are. So we're going to utilize that to really bring kind of the X's and O's and the personnel together and build a good scheme. We'll jump into part 2 here, and Kenny, we'll start back over with you. How do you prevent, so now that you've kind of identified your base, how do you prevent your coaches or your kids or maybe the quarterback's dad or whatever from going out and trying to force you to chase other scheme or adding confusion to the mix?
Well, I think if you have a good system, Coach Parker kind of alluded to it with with single wing. Like, you don't all of a sudden go, we got a quarterback now, we're going to go just a spread. Like, that took an evolution for them. The first thing they did was they threw the ball from the single wing, because inside of that offense, there are answers built in to adjust to your talent. So I'm a huge advocate of, don't just run a brand new offense every other year. Like, that's a dangerous thing. Now, you go from one offense and you make a change and you're going to live in that offense for the next 5 or 6 or 7, 8 years. That's a good thing. We've done the same thing. But if you are every year, you're the guy that last year you were running flex bone, and this year you're running spread, and next year you're running GT counter 20 personnel, the next year you're trying to run Jinx's offense, the next year you're running, then you really never have an offensive identity. You're just kind of throwing darts and guessing. So I hope whatever system you have invested in has these adjustments. I've worked really hard inside of my own in the gun T to come up with, if this year we have a great O-line, these are the things we want to do. If this year our running back's our best player, these are the things we want to do. If this year we have a really talented quarterback, these are what we want to do. We got a great receiver, this is what we want to do. And I think every offense that is a system has that. If you've kind of piecemealed your own thing, I hope you've done a good job, because, you're going to run into that where, yeah, that worked really well for you this year, but next year when you got different kids, have you thought through that process? Like, have you thought through the next move? Does your offense allow you to get into multiple looks? Even the wing T, which I think is an old school offense, they use numbers. Well, you can get into unlimited formations with all these numbers. And you can get into all these different passes using their system. So I'm not advocating to run this system or that system. I'm advocating to be so good at what you run that you can make adjustments within the scheme, because it can be hard for the coach, but for the kids, if they're hearing the same terminology in the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, you can make a lot of adjustments because they've learned a base. If they're having to learn a brand new offense every year, it's going to be very tough to make adjustments. So one, I hope you kind of have that. Second thing we look at is, what will we do if this happened? This kid got hurt, or that kid got hurt, or what happens if, this team is dominant in this area. So again, you go back to kind of relative comparison of who you're playing and understanding what are we going to have to do against teams that are going to be able to shut down what we want to do within our base. I always live during the week, regardless of who we're playing. I live in worst case scenario on Tuesday and Wednesday. Like, I just live in that world of, if I can line up and run buck every play, I'm good. But I live in Tuesday and Wednesday as if I'm not going to be able to, as if you have managed somehow to stop that. What's next? And then what's next after that? And then what's next after that? And then what happens if we got to play our backup quarterback? What happens if it's terrible weather? We want to live in these worst case scenarios because now you have answers.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have answers on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. One of the new things we're going to do this year, on Tuesdays, we always made it very difficult. Like, I let my defensive coordinator pretty much do whatever he wants. He sees me every day, so he knows what's going to make me mad and what's going to give our kids problems because he sees us every day. And I like that. I think that's a great thing. We've been doing that for 2 or 3 years, maybe even more. But what always happens, I would script. I'd go out there with a script. These are the 6 plays we're going to run in this 4-minute session, and then he's going to come out and run some defense that just pisses me off. And so I go, screw it. So this year, I'm going to have a 5-minute period where he can do whatever he wants and I can do whatever I want, and kind of get myself used to calling it like a game. And the rules I'm going to have, though, are worst case scenario. Like, I'm not going to let myself default back to just running my base. Like, I know against a scout team defense, I ought to be able to line up and run buck sweep, probably whenever I want to. So my rule for myself is going to be I can't do that. Now call a play to attack what he's showing you and knowing you can't run your base. So that's a new thing we're going to do. And I'd encourage you, if you're an OC, to make Tuesdays or Wednesdays or both challenging. So that, not for your kids. I mean, kids, you want to challenge them, of course. Challenging for you. Schematically challenging for you. Like, put yourself some restraints that you got to operate within. And now when you get into a game, if that restraint doesn't show up, great. It's easy to call plays. But if it does show up, you've kind of practiced for it.
Yeah. Your
system is going to be what allows you to do that. You can't do that if you've run a spread this year and then next year running flexbone, because you don't know those answers. Like, nobody knows those answers the first year, maybe not even the second year. You know them because you've lived in them, and now you know what works and doesn't work.
I tell you, I can't imagine. Right now I'm digging through my spring install and fall install and trying to make things you got to go through, make sure you got all the tags and the formations, the plays, blah, blah, blah. And I remember at Bristow, we had to do it a couple of years ago, but then last year was so much easier because it's all put in, right? The kids that are probably going to play have ran it. Now we have to start back at square one-ish because you just never know, right? Jason, you mentioned a while ago, you get a move in or you lose a guy. And now the kid who had no reps last year is going to have to step up and play. Anyway, the point is that second year in an offense sure is nice. Like, that's an awful good place to be. I cannot imagine changing everything just because the roster flipped over. That would be crazy. You talk about wasting time. Like, how inefficient is it? Not only am I losing the talent, I'm losing the experience. And now I'm having to go install everything new again. Like, that would just be bananas to me. So,
well, the challenge of this, it's easy for us to say right now. When I was 0-10, we changed an offense every 3 weeks because dadgummit, I wasn't going to keep doing the same crap and losing. So that's kind of, as a coach, that's the conundrum you get into. most guys that are successful, they don't change their offense. You know who changes their offense? The guys that aren't successful. Well, did I become successful because we changed our offense and found something? Or were we successful because we just sustained with what we were already doing?
Finally found something. Yeah.
Because here's the deal. If you're sustaining through something, you're getting beat 42-0, do you keep sustaining or do you switch? And that's the hard part for most coaches. And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, for sure. Jason, kind of moving to you here. So obviously, you know, you're getting to add a coach this year. You've got several years of a lot of success down there, especially these last few have seemed really, really good. How do you kind of prevent your staff and your kids and yourself from going out and chasing new scheme or adding confusion to what you're already doing?
I mean, the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm very big on getting lined up, and if you've got a gift, take it. You know, you can get real complicated with things and look cute with stuff, but you know, if someone's going to give you a 5-6 yard hitch all day, do that until they're going to stop it. I'm very big on that type of stuff. And, you know, this year actually, because the previous year we threw for 4,100 yards, you know, we led the state 2 years in a row in passing, and then we were 4th this year, but we still ran the ball a lot. We've had a 1,000-yard rusher. And then we came into this year and I said, you know, we're not going to do single wing. We're just going to do spread. And it hurt us. It hurt us because, you know, it's something that our kids knew, kind of like what Kenny was talking about. And it's more for the other defense to prepare for. When you've got to prepare for an offense that is a strange formation and different things like that, but you've also got athletes all over the field where we come out in quads and empty and different things like that. We saw that it, you know, made it easier for teams to prepare for us. And so when we did play Rejoice at our place, which was, you know, number 1 versus number 2, we came back out in a single wing, and Kenny, we scored on a 60-yard touchdown on buck sweep the first time we come out in it. But, you know, I made a mistake this year. I started calling offense like halfway through the season. I was more calling defense this year, and I worked collectively with our OC after about the 5th game this year. But when we took that portion out of our offense that the kids knew, it did hurt us. And so when we put it back in, it helped us a lot.
You know, one of my favorite things that Kenny's ever said in the podcast is like, if you have an identity and it's 4th and 2, the game's on the line from the 2-yard line, the kids already know what the play is. You don't even have to call it because they know what the formation, the play, they know what's going down right now, right? Like that's an identity. And I've always just leaned back into that. Like, what do we do so well that when the game is on the line, the kids already know? I don't even really have to say. I do it. It's formality just to confirm, but they know what's coming. So
I look back to you're watching the movie Hoosiers, old movie, great movie where it's at the end of the movie, he's trying to outthink him. And we're going to dial this play up. We're going to use Jimmy Chitwood as a decoy. And all the kids just stare at him like, you're a freaking idiot. And he goes, what's wrong? And he goes, I'm going to make the shot. Like there's times as coaches, I think there's times where we overthink things. Like we're not, us 3 in this group, we ain't going to score a freaking touchdown this year. Not one touchdown. But we might call a play that gets it to a guy who can. You know, and I think when you're calling offense, don't forget that. Like what's your identity? Well, I'd like my identity to be buck sweep, but if I got a kid who's a freak quarterback like I do this year, then it might be something else. He's pretty good, and he's going to win me the game, not me. You know,
I love it.
Yeah, we're having to make a big time adjustment this year because we had a kid the past 2 years that threw for 7,000 yards, a little bit over, and 70 touchdowns, and decided to move back in with a family member and went back across the border to Arkansas. And so, you know, that's like we're talking about trying to figure out, you know, what we're going to do. Fortunately, we did have a great quarterback move in that wanted to play with a team that throws the ball a little bit. But at the same time, we had kids in place that with the single wing and with spread, we could still make things happen, even with losing someone of that caliber.
I love it. Kind of when we get back into this, talking about how to prevent scheme chasing and prevent confusion, you know, I've found it. We've been very successful with just picking some base plays, and you better tie everything to it. Kind of that protect your base mentality. Cameron and I actually went to Boston 2 years ago, or maybe that was, I guess that was last year, with Kenny, and we did the protect your base clinic and just talked about having these base plays. For me, I'm a big GTGH guy. I love counter. I realize that power kind of is what makes counter work so well, but I'm a big counter guy. So you better have some stuff that keeps counter clean, because if guys can just load up on you, then, you might be in trouble. Kenny, you do that with buck sweep, with the RPOs, the RROs, the multiple formations, like just making those young kids out there think while you're just doing the thing that you love to run. So I think if you minimize your total plays, and then I always ask this question: if you're going to put something in, what are you taking out? Right? Because there's only about 60 games of offense, or plays of offense per game. So if you're going to run something a third of the time, that's 20 are gone. Everything else, you get about 40 ticks to put something in. Okay. And we talked about having an identity. It may be more than a third of it is those plays. So where are you going to call all these plays? So there's no reason to go out with 25 different things to do. So if you're going to put something in, what are you taking out? Because you can't carry it all into a game. So that's one way that I have used to just don't go out and scheme chase. It was a lot of fun when I was watching Brady Bradbury kind of win the state ball last year, and it was a ton of fun to watch the kids. I think it was Holdenville came to town, Stroud came to town, Holdenville came to town, and these guys are good. And you talk about a single wing offense, right? Holdenville's doing it. I mean, it is dirty. And you could, as a coach, go, maybe I want that as a package. Maybe I kind of want to, but what are you going to take out, right? Because if you're going to have time to install that, you got to drop something off. So it's hard to go chasing those, or to not go chasing those ghosts and prevent that scheme chasing, but you just got to do something. And then with the confusion piece, I think just having I talk it football almost like building a language. You got to have those root words. You've got to have, and then what did they change for? And you got to have rules that change them. You minimize the base, you minimize the root words, and everything else is just kind of an add-on. If any of y'all have ever studied German, I don't know if you've ever studied the German language, but you talk about like the words can get really long. You got this, 15, 18, 25 letter one word. And it's kind of the same. You got a root word, and then you can add some things to it. You got to be careful. Don't add too much, because your kids will just get just as confused. You kind of end up building a language. I think that's kind of the way to do it. Last part here, auditing your roster, kind of how you finding answers for that year. And then once you get into spring ball, you go through the summer, we all talk about, you add all this stuff. We just got back from all the clinics, all these cool ideas. How do you trim that menu down? Kenny, we'll start with you here.
We try to use basically a rule of 3. So pretty much, we know every year we're going to carry 3 runs to the, we call the strong side, and 3 to the quick side. We're going to carry 3 rollout passes. Going to probably carry 3 play action, 3 quick game. We're going to 3. Like, that's kind of our rule. And then we modify within it. So let's say this year our quarterback is a great runner, and for whatever reason we don't want to throw it as much. Okay, we'll pull from the 3 full field progression routes, and we'll cut it down to 1. And we'll take those 2 extras and we'll stick them we'll run power read this year, or we'll run option, or whatever run we're going to add on to it. Or maybe the opposite way. Maybe we are going to throw it more this year because we got some pretty good ones out there and he can sling it a little bit. Well, now we might pull from, okay, we're not going to run, we're going to kill this one run, and we're going to add this quick game or whatever it might be into our offense. But we kind of try to live in the rule of 3. I think you got to modify that every year. Because for me, you got to look at what's working now. Like, what is working now for you? Because all of us have an idea, kind of like Mike Tyson says, you got an idea until you get punched in the face. Like, everybody's got an idea right now what you want to run, what I think I'm going to be good at. And then I go out there week 1, 2, and 3, which in Arkansas is all non-conference. So I get these 3 games to kind of just play around and see, oh, we're not as good at this as I thought we were going to be, or I think we're pretty good at this. And so you need to use those whenever that is for you. Maybe that's spring football. Maybe that's early season football. Maybe it's summer football, whatever your timeline is where you can kind of play with things where, we want to win our non-conference games, but we're using those games to set ourselves up for a run, and so we're going to play with some stuff in there to see who we are. because even though I think we're going to be this, we may not be, and I've got to be able to make adjustments within my system to handle that. We got to figure out which kid's going to grow up and be a dude. Every year we have surprises, some good, some bad. You kind of have guys, hey, this guy, we saw him last year. We kind of know what we're going to get. But then you got these kids where you're like, man, I think he's going to be pretty good. And then he comes out and so looked like Tarzan, play like Jane kind of deal where no, he was good in the weight room, but it never really translated. Or you got this kid you didn't pay attention to, and all of a sudden, man, he might become your best player that year. I mean, you never know. These are kids you're dealing with. So you're going to have good and bad surprises, and you got to make adjustments as a coach of, man, I thought we were going to run behind this bell cow, but all of a sudden this dude's kind of becoming, every time he touches it, and that's where Daniel's analytics guy probably comes into effect of you start looking at, well, every time we've done this, this has happened. And every time we've done this, it's not really been what I thought. So you got to be able to make that quick adjustment early in the year about your players and your plays. Then you got to figure out, it may be the league you're in that year. Like some years, I don't really know if our team has been any better, but we get into the league and we're just running roughshod over people because we're so physical. And I really didn't think we were really physical this year, but I guess compared to who we're playing, we took steps forward and they took steps back. Or it might be the opposite. I thought I was going to be able to bully some of these teams, and nope. But we're a little more athletic than I thought we would be compared to them, because you have an idea, like Coach said, you're calling around asking about the other teams, but you don't really know until they start playing real games.
Yeah.
And so what you thought might be true may not be true. And so you've got to be willing to always adjust what you're going to do. But like Daniel said, if you put something in, something's got to come out or become a lesser practice deal. You don't have to take something out of we're never going to run all verticals. I mean, you can keep that in your playbook, but you're not going to practice that every day. So it's not going to be a huge thing you're going to use. So we kind of have these core three. This is what our core is going to be around in all areas of the game. And then you have these little accessories. But what might happen, and I've seen it happen before, is what I thought was going to be kind of an extra, that became something we were really good at. So that became a core, and we pulled something else back. So you always want to be able to adapt and adjust. And then our first year we made the playoffs. We go in and we play Boonville, Arkansas. If you know much about Arkansas, Boonville is pretty dang good. So we had never played a playoff game ever in the history of our school. And we're at Boonville, playing Boonville, who that's all they do is play playoff games and win. They're really, really good. So it's fourth quarter. It's 14-13, and it's 4th and 4. So I call timeout, and I'm just looking around, and I finally go, what would y'all call right here? And they were like, Coach, we would call counter. And I was like, we haven't run counter all game. And they go, I know, that's why we'd call it. Well, counter went to one of our best players. One of our best kids was leading for it. Bad job of mine. We run counter touchdown. We end up winning 21-13. Sometimes your kids know. Like, I don't know if that was the best play call. They had us outnumbered on the quick side. They were reading our guard. But our kids felt good about it. And when the kids feel good about something, even if it's not the best on paper, or what you're seeing is what they're seeing is what matters. And that kid took it, housed it. First playoff win, it was a big one. Really fun stories. But my point is, what do your kids feel good about? Because that means as much as the actual design of the play. You can't just let them call every player. They'll just call all verts every game. But there are certain things they feel good about. This is who we are and what we're going to be about.
I still go back to the year we were still well, and you had a team on the field that had won 4 games in 4 years or 5 games in 5. It wasn't good, right? And we come out and we get a little mojo going and win some games. There were multiple times that season that our quarterback would look at the sidelines for a play and then just wave us off. Never mind, I got it, coach. And it kind of comes up what you were talking about, Kenny. Like, what would you? He didn't even wait for us to ask. He's like, "Nah, I got this," and he'd go out and get 15 yards. And it's like, what? Like, number one, you're mad at him because don't you dare wave me off. But also, brother, you can do it every single time if you're going to go get 15 yards.
He sees it.
Yeah, he's out there seeing the game, and we were pretending like we were good coach. We still look back at that year, me and Bo Collins, and just laugh at each other because we had no idea what we were doing. He was drowning, and I was drowning, and but we made some things work, you know.
One more quick story before you get on, because I need to go move on here. But so my first year is only year as an OC in the last 20 years, I feel like, where I was just the OC. We get into a game playing Lone Oak, Arkansas, a really good football team, get down 21-0, come all the way back, and we're in overtime. So we're in overtime. I know we're going to run our version heavy, which is coach's single wing unbalanced. So I said, hey, can I come out of the box? Because we're just going to live in heavy. I don't have to sit up here to call plays. Head coach, yeah, come on down. And here, our buddies. So I come on down there. And we score a touchdown on, I think it was third down to cut it to 1. And he'd already said, hey, coach, we're going to go for 2. I said, I've got my play ready in my mind. We run like a check with me, call timeout, pull the kids over. They called timeout. They called timeout. We pulled our kids over. And head coach comes up to me and says, what do you think you want to run? And I said, man, we just ran counter for 5 yards and walked into the end zone. I said, I think that's what I would call it, but you're the head coach this year, man. I'm just drinking coffee and up here calling plays, you know. So he goes to our kids and he says, hey, I think we're going to run counter, which is going to go to a kid we called, his last name was Jacob Dunn was his name. Good player for us. Our quarterback that year, his name was Landon Haas, was our best player. And our quarterback, I wasn't in the huddle at that point. I was kind of over there talking to our line coach, getting stuff ready. But he comes back, he's laughing. He goes, I want to run power. I said, okay. So we run power, we score, we win. So, man, why were you laughing? He said, I went over those kids and told them we're going to call counter. And our quarterback said, Coach, you can call that, but you better get another person here to hand it off because I'm taking this thing in. And so he said, Coach, I think I want to run power. I said, whatever you want. But anyway, another story about kids seeing what they want.
Yeah. And sometimes it's what they believe in. I talked earlier, you better coach what you know, you better coach what you believe in. Sometimes you got to call what the kids believe in. Coach Parker, same question to you here, man. Kind of how are you trimming the menu and auditing your roster to make sure you've got in this year what you need?
First off, yes, I have asked the question numerous times because I live about 45, 50 minutes from Boonville as what is in the water down there to produce all these gigantic linemen and then fast, gigantic white kids that can run the ball. And it's just went on for forever. I mean, like they never run out. I don't know, like I'd like to know like what happened, the different types of people that all ended up in Boonville to create all these monsters down there because it just keeps on. So definitely know about Boonville. And also about, asking the kids. I'm huge on that because they see things out there, obviously, that we don't see. They know how much better they are than somebody, or maybe if they're getting beat and if they're being honest about it. Our first playoff game this year, we played Pawnee, which was 100% single wing team. Had the state champion heavyweight wrestler, the 220 class. Kid was, or maybe he was 6'2", 230, getting direct snaps all night. And I mean, you want to talk about a war. I've got a great picture of going up to my son, and I've got my arms out to the side, and I'm fired up. But you just see my son and the rest of the kids. We just won the game, and I mean, they look like they're walking off of a battlefield dead because I mean, it was just a ball game. But talking about what we were saying is, we called timeout, and we were on the 7-yard line, and we had to get to the 2, and then we could run the clock out. And so they had called timeout. It's 4th and 7, or 4th and 7, I think, 4th and 5. And the kids come over there, and my son plays wing back in the single wing, and so he runs a counter play that we usually take it, we'll call it 7, basically take it into the 5 hole, but we had switched it up and started going outside. And so they all come over there to the sidelines, and my son walks right over to me, and he goes, give me the damn ball. And so he was like, I'm not getting stopped. And I was like, that's what I want to hear, though. I'm just like, I mean, whether it's my son or anybody, just when a kid's like, give me the ball, I'm getting this and making it happen. And he got it, and that big old kid they had that was playing linebacker, oh my God, he knocked him out into the fence. And so it was, we still kind of laugh about that, but he got the first down. He got the first down, and then we nailed it, and man, tough game.
Love it.
But man, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got them all off topic.
As you're going through your roster and this is, finding those answers, trimming your menu, you're getting into, the season, kind of what's your process going through that?
Right now is we've got a lot of new kids. We've graduated some just absolutely great athletes the past 3 years, especially from our classification of school. We've got 4 kids going to play D2 ball off of defensively off of our team this year. The previous year, I think we had 3 and then 1 Power 4 kid. So, our roster looks a lot different. We're bringing back we ended up with some injuries and things on our offensive line. So we started 2 freshmen on the offensive line last year. And so,
Uh-oh. We lost him.
Oh, yep.
I bet he got a phone call.
That's tough. But to these kids' credit that we had play, they grew up a lot. So for us this year, we see that, we can run the ball better. We've got a new quarterback, but he's very polished. So there's some more RPO type stuff that we're looking at. We don't have as much athleticism as we've had in the past several years, but we have some really gritty kids that are still athletic and can play. And so for us, we're going to get a lot of answers in spring ball, a lot of answers. We've got some kids that we know what they can do, but there's a lot of question marks as well. So we'll go out and, do the things that we have been doing. There's a couple of things that we'll switch up a little bit to suit the quarterback that we have. And then defensively, that's what I'm doing, is calling defense again this year. I'm trying to figure out whether if I'm going to do a 3 or 4 front. We've been in the 4 front the past couple of years, but we're a little low on linemen this year. So I'm trying to figure some things out on that as well.
I tell you, man, I know it's counterintuitive, but I've always said that if you have less linemen, run a 4 front.
I lost you on volume again.
Okay. You can always, you can always put an athlete at defensive end and just let him wreck a tackle's world. But you can't always put, 3 studs inside. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Kenny, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure. All right.
I can't hear you.
Kind of trimming the menu. We're going to message Coach on the side, and give me just a second here. Sorry, guys, you are watching live. We're in kind of a weird place here. Coach has lost us on volume for whatever reason. So, when it comes to trim the menu, I'm in a great place where I'm getting to install now for the first time. So how do we trim the menu is really just leaning back into what we already said. Just finding something finding something you love, something you can coach, something you can teach coaches, because they got to know how I want it ran versus maybe how they've seen it in the past. And then, and then go from there. There we go. Hopefully he's back now. You got us now, Coach?
Hello?
You got us? All right. We'll fix that here in just a moment. Kenny, that's kind of how we're doing it, auditing the roster. It's the first time for me to evaluate the entire roster, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully Coach Parker gets it figured out. The last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here. So, Kenny, I know your answer already because I've heard you discuss this multiple times, but Memphis' new head coach just said that they are not going to listen to music at practice because the Navy SEALs don't listen to music when they're getting ready to go to war. So he's not going to let the Memphis Tigers listen to music when they go to practice. So I want to know your thoughts on it, and then we'll get Coach Parker in here. Hopefully he can let us know his thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, I'm not, to each their own, so I hate to critique what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
However, Daniel, you're in the military.
Yeah.
So, I find it incredibly offensive when we compare football to, real war. I don't think Coach meant it that way, but, I find it extremely offensive when we say things like, we're going to go to war, or we're going to go to battle, or we're going to do X, Y, or Z, comparing it. It's okay to use those terms.
Right.
But to say it as though, yeah, you're right. The Navy SEALs don't listen to music when they're going to war because they might get freaking shot. You're playing a game, and so to me, I think it's very, very different. I'm an old man. I don't really like music in the weight room. I like to focus. I like to get things done. But it is a game that we're coaching, and you literally play music during the game. And these what these kids do. So to me, I think you adapt and you adjust. Now, I wish the coach luck, and obviously he's got to do what he wants to do, and I hope he wins a lot of games. I just one of my pet peeves is when we see football coaches or any sport coach comparing what they do to what our military guys and girls go through. They might actually die for our country. You're coaching a sport for children, or maybe a little bit older children. That's entertainment. Like, they're going to fight for our freedom and for our safety, and they might die. So whether you want music or not, I don't really care. Stop comparing what we do to real people in the military.
Yeah, I don't necessarily take offense to it. I think, heck, I've used it at times, right? Like, you get emotional, and it's like, we got to go out there and be violent. It's tied to violence, and it's tied to having a plan of attack, and you're strategizing. Like, it's military-esque. But I thought it was funny when his reasoning was the Navy SEALs don't listen. Every single mission that I rolled out on when I was in Afghanistan, when I was in Iraq, we had music jamming as loud as we could possibly get it. Like, we had to custom wire the inside of our MRAP so that we could plug a freaking iPod into it with an aux cable so that the music would be like, we went out of our way to make sure we had music. So it's just very weird when a coach says, oh, we're not going to do this because of the military. We definitely did it. I've heard, a lot of coaches don't. We're going to have music. We're definitely having music at practice. So we're going to be jamming. For nothing else, just the distraction, just for the kids to have to focus. They're going to practice focusing. They're going to practice when the stadium's loud. I can't imagine going to his first, away game and the crowd is just going crazy. And he's like, well, we haven't even had music on while we're practicing. So, I don't know whether you're listening to, I think he talked about Lil Baby. You can listen to Lil Baby or Travis Tritt or, whoever you want to listen to. Now our stuff looks weird here because Coach left, but
that's okay. And I wish the coach luck. Like, I don't want people coming on here going, Coach.
No, but nothing bad for the guy. It's just it is an odd thing. So anyway, we're gonna close that here. Real quick with the sponsors, Ace Sports. If you haven't reached out to Mark, this is the time. You've kind of hit the end of it, the end of be able to probably get something installed this year, and it may even already be too late. But it's a good time to start that conversation, see what they can do for you. Mark.bridges@acesports.com. Go to their website. You can go check out. Shoot, there's a lot of stadiums you can go check out. You can call me. I'll talk to you through it all. Call Kenny. He sends you pictures of his own stadium. So Ace Sports is the place to go. Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Make sure that you have hit Doug up at some point this offseason. Just see what he's got going on. Doug has got the thing now that he's doing to help break down your opponent is just that much better. He's actually trying to take some of my stuff that I do to make a huge report that becomes my call sheet and automate it off of like Huddle. So should be really, really neat to see what he can do for you and your team. And he's willing to work with pretty much anybody. Make sure that you use that code at 20 off coaching 101, I believe is what it is. And then the last one, of course, is Blended Threads, LLC. We're doing see me doing all this stuff in the background? That's right. We're making things happen over here. Producing as I talk. Blended Threads LLC.com, or you can email Morgan at blendedthreadsllc.com and just check out what she can do for you. Morgan's got a ton of experience in making shirts and hats and jackets and whatever you need, embroidery, screen print. Maybe you're trying to start a pro shop. Maybe you just want to give your coaches some swag or whatever it is. Holler at her and she can help you out. All right, Kenny, I know you talked about the books earlier, the clinics that are finalized here. You kind of gave those at the beginning. So we'll jump straight to social media here. Where can people find you?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So websites at FB Coach Simpson, FBCoachSimpson.com, or hit me up on Twitter at FB Coach Simpson.
I think we figured out, Coach. We got you now.
Yeah.
I knew it was the
My
Bluetooth.
wife pulled
I was
up
like, he's got a
and had the
Bluetooth
car
speaker.
Yes. So you called that. It connected to Bluetooth. So I'm over here just
trying
to figure it out.
Coach Parker, we're closing out here. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you and talk about Pocola's offense or defense or the stud quarterback you just pulled in, anything, where would they reach out social media wise?
You can email me at parkerjason74@yahoo.com, or you can go check me out on Twitter at coach_JParker54.
There we go. And congratulations, man, on so much success down there in Pocola. And I hope that, this year's can be the one. I know you've been chasing. You've been so close a couple of years here. So I'm hoping you guys can get that gold ball this year. I am at Coach Chambo OK on X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Jump over, check out the YouTube, the website. There's all sorts of fun stuff going on. The podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod on X. We want to thank you for being a listener of the Coaching 101 podcast. We hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.